He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. This is Radio Free America, and it always has been. We've been talking about what's going on in Iran. We've been urging military action of some kind. I don't know, special forces maybe hitting certain units where we know they have troops located, basically Gestapo, who go in and murder citizens. They're now hanging people. These are young people. There are videos and photos, and I have posted some on my various social sites, where you can see how horrendous this is. They're just being shot in the streets, back of the head, front of the face, in the chest. And it's horrendous. And CBS is reporting anywhere from 12 to 20,000 have been murdered. We'll get into all this. The President of the United States, his most recent comment, as he was getting on Air Force One, heading back to the White House, convening a meeting to further determine what action to take, and I think he's ready to roll. It's just a matter of what exactly they do. Said the following, cut 26, go.
And I'm going back to the White House now. We're going to look at the whole situation that's going on in Iran. It's really bad stuff. And Minnesota is going to have to take care of itself for a little while. We have tremendous theft and fraud going on in that state because you have an incompetent governor, grossly incompetent governor, and a corrupt governor. But we'll straighten that out. But Iran is on my mind when I see the kind of death that is happening over there, we think. So we're going to get some accurate numbers. I'll have it in about 20 minutes. We'll get some accurate numbers as to what's happening with regard to the killing. The killing looks like it's significant, but we don't know yet for certain. I'll know within 20 minutes. So, and we'll act accordingly.
And the killing is just horrendous. The Europeans have spoken out, said they oppose what's taking place, and they've called the envoys in for a meeting. That's about as good as they're going to get. That's about as good as they're going to get. Then there's phony press that the Israelis really don't want this regime addressed because it could be a worse regime could come in. Of course, that's phony, too. The World War III guys, every time we do anything, they accuse us of wanting to start World War III. They're in high dungeon, as always, shrieking about World War III beginning. These young people are freedom fighters. And when we turn our backs on them, we get Communist China. We get Cuba. In other words, it gets worse. It doesn't get better. For us, the United States of America, it gets worse. I don't know how you can love this country and be compassionate and humane and be a Democrat anymore. I just don't. Virtually every single one of them, with few exceptions, very few, has denounced what that regime is doing and then said we shouldn't do anything about it. Has denounced what that regime is doing, said we shouldn't do anything about it. I take note, and I think many of you will as well, of the lack of demonstrations in our country by the Marxist-Islamists in support of and in defense of the people being slaughtered in Iran. I mean, it's thousands and thousands by this regime. Now, they claim to care about the rights of people, the right to vote. There's genocide taking place in Iran, real genocide. And they say nothing. Zero. I noticed the woke right neo-fascists say nothing. Zero. And you should keep this in mind, because it tells you what they really believe in their heart and soul and in their walnut-sized brains. They favor these kinds of barbaric, Islamist, Marxist, police state, or fascist regimes. They keep attacking capitalism. Socialism, let's be honest, socialism is a myth. Okay, the theory of socialism is a myth. It's an utter and complete myth. What they want is feudalism. And they want feudalism, which means that a relative handful of people control everything. That's what they are. That's what you have in all these regimes. That's what you have in communist China at the top. That's what you have in Cuba. That's what you have in North Korea. That's what you have in Iran and so forth. These are fascistic, feudal societies dressed up as people revolutions. Marxism, that is communism, call it what you wish. Marxism is the real name, but that's okay. Marxism is as phony as a $3 bill. Marxism is the theory that's impossible. Even if it were beneficial, and of course it's not, it's an impossible theory. Human beings are motivated for a billion different reasons. So this collective, and we're all going to share the same thing, and we're all going to be happy working for the state, is preposterous. That's not how humanity works. That's not how government works. And so people have died. 100 million people have died for a defective, phony ideology. Socialism is a fraud. Communism is a fraud. Islamism is barbaric and primitive back to the 7th century. They seek to conquer and control. They reject the Enlightenment. They reject constitutionalism, democracy. Where are these people in the street? This should demonstrate to anybody who's had questions about it once and for all that these people are dyed in the wool, fascists, communists, Islamists. Take your pick. All fused together to overthrow our country in the West. Not for the good of the people, for their own grift, for their own power, to advance their own cause. What you see going on in Iran is a fundamentalist Islamist government that is also corrupt mobster government, where the imams become incredibly wealthy, where generals become incredibly wealthy, all in the name of faith, of course. All in the name of faith. Now, there's a lot to unravel here, and I'm going to, but I want to raise another point. The Democrats, and I've talked about this and I've written about it many, many times, but I want to bring it up again. Look in our streets. Look at Minneapolis. Look at New York. Look in L.A. Look in every major city in America. And not just our cities. Look at Plano, Texas. Look outside of Houston. Look outside of Tampa. Look at Patterson, New Jersey. Look at Dearborn, Michigan. Look. The Democrats have militarized their various constituent groups again in support of the illegal alien stampede they created under the Biden regime, because they know that to break the immigration enforcement system is to change the country forever and to establish one-party Democrat Party control over our country as far as the eye can see. They did it in California, a conservative Republican state that not only gave us Ronald Reagan, but successive conservative Republican governors, scores of Republicans in Congress, and an electoral college map that was unbeatable for some time. Now, it's as close to a permanent Democrat-controlled state as one can imagine, and they pulled it off in less than 10 years' time. Illegal immigration and the importation of millions of people from all parts of the world who have no intention of assimilating into our country and who seek to impose their own cultures on the citizenry is already causing enormous havoc and societal unrest here. The Democrat Party is all in. It is the most unconscionable assault on our nation since the Confederate Democrats dragged our country into a civil war. Revolution by immigration, I've mentioned this to you over and over again, is what the Islamists have been preaching for decades. They seek to conquer the West and especially our country, as do the Marxist revolutionaries who came to our country from Europe starting in the late 1800s as progressives, the 1960s as the New Left, and now simply as straight-up communists. The Democrat Party is all in again. For the Democrat Party, party comes before country, which is how communist regimes work. Fidelity and allegiance to the party is everything. And if that means changing the citizenry to achieve its ends, then so be it. The battles in our streets between ICE and the mobs are battles for the survival of this republic. The mobs are funded by power-hungry, evil billionaires, foreign governments, and their front groups, and, of course, domestic radicals born from academia. And they're using every propaganda and agitprop tactic honed and exercised by such movements in the past. Our very existence is at stake. The most magnificent, wonderful republic humankind has ever established is under attack from within like a cancer. It's metastasizing. It's gobbling up our institutions. We're using what we have to fight it. Donald Trump. Will it be enough? Will it be enough? The woke right, neo-fascists, are giving aid and comfort to these movements. They're weakening our ability to fight them. They're undermining us. They're trying to destroy the conservative movement, which they now mock. They're trying to destroy the Republican Party. They're trying to destroy the Republic because they have their own schemes in mind, their own ideas in mind. None of this is new. 1930s, the battle between the fascists and the communists in Germany. Well, the fascists won. The Soviet Union, communist. They won. People butchered, murdered, slaughtered. You're looking at it in Iran right now. An Islamist, fundamentalist, mobster regime slaughtering young people like they give a damn. And there's only one man that's going to be able to help these people achieve their counter-revolution against this fundamentalist Islamist revolution. And that's President Trump. And let's hope it's sooner than later. And if we are going to duck and bend and fear every regime, every evil genocidal regime, because we're afraid it'll start World War III, then we will have a World War III. Weakness begets bullies. That's what happens. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
I want to congratulate Barry Weiss, who's running CBS, and David Ellison for hiring her. You know, if she were a radical left-wing kook, they'd be celebrating the fact that a woman is running a network. They'd be telling us about firsts and all the rest of it. But we know how the left operates. And I deigned to watch some CBS over the weekend. It was excellent. Doesn't mean I agree with everything that the reporters say or how they approach it, but you can see it is much more of a journalism-centric enterprise than an ideological one. And hence she comes under attack, vicious attack, by miscreants and malcontents who can't hold a candle to her. She's a young lady, and she's doing a hell of a job in a very difficult situation and environment where you're not even allowed to move these entities center because the hard left has controlled them for so long. But she's doing the right thing. She's doing the right thing. I don't know her. I don't believe I've ever talked to her. We don't hang out in the same circles, apparently. But that's the way it is. Information trickling out, CBS reports, out of Iran suggests that a crackdown by authorities to end more than 2 weeks of widespread anti-government protest has likely been far more deadly than activists outside the country have reported, with phone lines opening back up for calls from inside the Islamic Republic. Two sources, including one inside Iran, told CBS News that at least 12,000 and possibly as many 20,000 people have been killed. Now, I want to pursue this. This is a very, very horrific thing that's taking place. People being shot innocently. They don't have weapons. You can't overthrow a government without weapons. But I've got more to say. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin, making conservatism great again. Dial in now, 877-381-3811.
I need to just take a moment of personal privilege with you folks to tell you something. I am so honored and blessed to have you. We got our ratings from Fox over the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, and despite what some of these buffoonish, vulgar individuals say on podcasts, we won the night on Saturday. We almost won the night on Sunday. And on Sunday, Mr. Producer, we were up against an 8 o'clock a football game that ended at 8 with the Eagles that had 29 million viewers. And then at 8:15 or 18:20, NBC picked up with the next game. This is all right in the middle of my show on Sunday. And we still had substantial viewership. On Saturday, we're up against professional football in the playoffs, and we won the night. And by the way, all the shows are great Saturday and Sunday. That's not my point. My point is, you show up or you set your DVRs, come hell or high water. And I just want you to know how appreciative I am, and I'm going to continue to work as hard as I possibly can to bring you the best programming I can, including my opening statements, which apparently are big ratings grabbers. Now let's move on. More from CBS. I don't mind quoting CBS now. A source inside Iran who was able to call out told CBS on Tuesday that activist groups working to compile a full death toll from the protests based on reports from medical officials across the country believe the toll was at least 12,000, possibly as high as 20,000. Folks, they're using howitzers against these people. They're using AKs against these people. They're using military weapons against unarmed people, mostly young people, and just slaughtering them. And they're charging the families, calling them in to find the bodies for the bullets, Mr. Producer. Same source said security forces were visiting the many private hospitals across Tehran, threatening staff to hand over the names and address of those being treated for injuries sustained in the protests. CBS News has not been able to independently verify the massive death toll indicated by the source. The opposition Iran International Television Network said Tuesday its information suggested about 12,000 people were killed. Okay, look. This is in, you might say, 2-3 weeks. No, the mass slaughter has occurred really in 48, 76 hours. So to kill that many people, you have to be killing a lot of people all at once. All at once. One unnamed Iranian official, according to CBS, said about 2,000 had been killed. Another one, by the way, in another news site said 3,000. But, of course, there's a blackout there, so it's hard to get the information out. This will determine the extent to which the West is serious about defending itself, really. We see the Democrats, they're appeasers, they're pacifists, they're very dangerous people. Whether it's our own hemisphere in Venezuela, whether it's securing our border, backing our cops and ICE, building up our military, they're on the wrong side of every piece of that, which, of course, is a motivation for an enemy to attack us in small ways and large. Then when we are attacked, they have the same thing, gun control or who failed or whatever. They don't want to attack the source ever, and neither do, by the way, the neo-fascists. They're sympathetic to these regimes. That's why. For all their talk, they're sympathetic to these regimes. President's meeting with his team right now. And if Donald Trump doesn't act and the United States doesn't act, the casualty numbers are going to go to 50,000, 60,000, whatever it takes. The regime will be emboldened. And then when it's all over, they'll be going door to door, dragging people out of their homes, hanging them. They've already started to hang people. One young man in the New York Post has been hanged. They show you the picture of the guy. Young guy, handsome guy, very much Western. And they hang him. There's no lawyer. There's no due process. That's what these regimes are, folks. These regimes are the closest things to Nazism have in present time. The Islamist regimes and the Marxist regimes, whether it's China or Cuba or North Korea, neo-fascists, whether fascists like Putin, and of course the Islamists, they slaughter away left and right, even their own people. It doesn't matter. That's just the truth. By the way, next hour there's a piece by Selena Zito that I want to read to you. It's going to be tough for some people to hear, but you're going to have to hear it. More CBS News videos show rows of body bags in Iran as anti-regime protests enter third week. You can see them on the internet if you want to look, and you should. Videos appearing to show rows of body bags of those killed in Iran have emerged as anti-regime protests across the republic stretch in the third week. CBS partner network, the BBC, which of course is crazy-ass, counted around 180 body bags and footage taken outside a morgue in Tehran alone. Other videos posted online showed protesters taking to the streets, shouting death to the dictator, openly calling for the end. These are remarkable people. Brave beyond belief. Not the people attacking ICE. Not the people in our country who take to the streets, who know damn well they're not going to be murdered just for standing there. Even the situation involving Good and ICE in Minneapolis. That's not an intentional killing of any sort. She wasn't killed because she was there protesting. She was killed because she was viewed as a threat with her car against one of the individuals there. People can debate this all they want, but that's the truth. And that's different than peaceful protesting down the street demanding your freedom. That's different. Tucker Carlson, who I despise, and most of you should, and most of you probably do. He compared the assassination of Charlie Kirk to the death of Good. If I remembered her first name, I'd give it, but of Good. Renee Good. Outrageous. Disgusting, as a matter of fact. Iran human rights groups, other groups are trying to keep tabs of what's going on, but the truth is the murder is so ubiquitous and so overwhelming they can't even keep track of how many people are being murdered. They can't even keep track of it. That tells you a lot, I would think. You've got guys like Mark Warner out there, really sick. I want you to listen to this. Cut 22, Mr. Producer. Hat tip Breitbart. Go.
We're talking about the demise of the Iranian regime. What are we going to be able to say about our own nation's democracy?
You see, ladies and gentlemen, here's a Democrat. He sees what's going on in Iran, and he looks for a political opportunity to exploit. These are lowlives. These are disgusting, unconscionable, immoral, power-hungry bastards. That's what they are. To now drag our country in and make comparisons to what's going on our streets. Have we killed 12,000 or 20,000 people? Is that what we've done? Are we executing people willy-nilly? Meanwhile, when people are killed by illegal aliens, what do the Democrats say? Nothing. Meanwhile, while our citizens are being slaughtered by other citizens, soft on crime, big cities, what do the Democrats say? Nothing. Zero. When Jews are being hunted down in the streets, that's right, I said it, and synagogues are being destroyed, most Democrats say nothing. When people are celebrating Hamas outside of a synagogue and they got a permit to be there, interrupting prayer services, where are the Democrats? Nowhere. I want you to listen to Ryan Young, a correspondent on CNN today, about what's going on in the streets, that these paid for, and in some cases not paid for, by radical left-wing Democrat, almost every one of them, militia types are literally interfering with law enforcement, that are trying to uphold federal immigration law against illegal aliens. Cut 24, go.
I can tell you they have been really strong in this fact that they're saying they're going to follow through this lawsuit. And the reason why we're walking back this direction is this is just where ICE and a lot of the Border Patrol officials were just here. All these neighbors that you see here were using their whistles and they were blowing and they were trying to stop an arrest. While we were here, we actually saw people running through the alleys trying to escape being captured. And this was a chaotic scene. It lasted for over 20 minutes. There were flashbangs used. There were pepper balls sprayed into the crowd. There were tear gas agents deployed. And we saw people physically trying to get in the way of some of these arrests that were being made. So as we walk you this direction, I want to show you because this kind of played out here. In fact, you can still see part of the canister that exploded right there in the middle of the intersection. These people were absolutely incensed by this, and we fell back for a quick second because obviously this was so chaotic at one point. We saw some of the agents accidentally spraying each other, so they had to fall back into several vehicles. Traffic was blocked up.
Okay, this just shows you the extent of the violence of the Democrat Party militia. None of this would be necessary. When Dwight Eisenhower was rounding up illegal aliens, many more than Donald Trump is, he never confronted any of this, ever. Now, some of you are big Joe Rogan fans. I'm not. I think he's Bernie Sanders' guy. Okay, he endorsed Trump. That's a one-off. But, God, this guy is, to me, really dense. That's just my opinion. Cut 23, go.
and they don't want those laws. They don't like those laws. They think that once people are here, they should be able to stay. And, this is what my friend Gad Saad calls suicidal empathy.
Yep, I follow him.
And I think there's a balance to be achieved. I just don't know how it gets done, because I see both perspectives. I see the perspective of the people that say, hey, there was an illegal program moving people in here to get votes, moving people in here to get congressional seats, and we've got to change that. We've got to take those people that got in and send them back to where they came from, or do something, because if we don't, they're going to keep doing it if they get in office again in 2028, and it's going to accelerate. And you're going to have to take away some of the damage that's been done to a true democratic system, because you've kind of hijacked it, and they kind of have. And then I can also see the point of view of the people that say, yeah, but you don't want militarized people in the streets just roaming around, snatching people up, many of which turn out to actually be U.S. citizens that just don't have their papers on them. Are we really going to be the...
Stop. How many? Very few. And let me educate you, Joe Rogan. Illegal aliens don't walk around with signs saying, I'm an illegal alien. There's a lot of preparation that goes into these actions. Lists, they're trying to track people, trying to figure out who's who, and they have to go where illegal aliens are. Where are illegal aliens? They're everywhere. Where American citizens are, illegal aliens are. And by the way, he's talking there to Rand Paul. Go ahead.
Is that what we've come to? So it's more complicated than I think people want to admit. People want to look at this as a black and white issue. If you're a compassionate...
I'm sorry, it is a black and white issue. There are issues that are right and wrong, legal and illegal. And if you accept the premise of what he's saying, that ICE looks like, they're militarized, and they're grabbing people off the street, and they're grabbing citizens off the street, and so forth and so on. Can you name 10 citizens that they've grabbed off the street? I mean, you'd have to look really hard. Maybe there are some. The media highlights them. Do they highlight the rapists, the murderers, the gang members? No, they don't. In fact, Noam's department has to put out that information because the press is reluctant to do so. This is what it looks like when you're trying to put down riots, when you're trying to put down violence, when you're trying to stop people in the streets from obstructing law enforcement. Law enforcement, not doing something illegal, doing something compelled under federal law, the removal and the deportation of illegal aliens. So it's easy to take both sides of an issue and say, well, I can see one and I can see the other. But when you're actually managing a situation, when you're actually trying to address a situation like this, now, you can't let the lawlessness get out of hand, and that's what's happening. And I don't know what Rogan would have said when Ronald Reagan was governor in California, and they had to put down the takeover of schools and facilities and administration buildings by the students, or the 1960s with the riots in the streets and so forth and so on, or the 1970s with the riots against the Vietnam War, and I could go on and on and on. You've got to have law and order. A just law and order. And we have just laws in place that if people are violated with the backing of the Biden regime and the Democrat Party and the media. So 6 of one and half a dozen of the other doesn't cut it. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Now, when we come back, very important 2 hours remaining in the program. I want you to hear what the president said at the Detroit Economic Club about Iran and what's taking place there. Anytime our military is about to get involved in something, and they are, it's important that we're paying heightened attention. And anytime one of these Islamic regimes is slaughtering people, it's important that we have heightened attention. So much of this terrorism that we have faced is funded by, fueled by Iran. Hezbollah's been in our hemisphere? Iran. Hamas, partly Iran. Also Qatar. It's funny, you haven't heard Qatar condemn Iran, have you? No, you haven't heard the usuals condemn Iran, including the neo-fascist right and the Marxist-Islamist left. And, of course, the Democrats give you the rope-a-dope, much like Joe Rogan. Well, I can understand both sides. They're bad over there, but do we really want to do this? You know what we call that? A quisling. I'll be right back. This segment of the podcast is exclusively sponsored by Pure Talk. Pure Talk offers great coverage and can save your family money on your wireless bill every single month. Go to puretalk.com to find the plan that's right for you. Thank you again for listening, and thank you so much for this sponsorship, Pure Talk.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. You know, I'm a big fan of Selena Zito, as many of you are. She's fantastic. She's a real journalist. And she's in western Pennsylvania, in and around Pittsburgh. Sorry, Pittsburgh. It's time to get rid of that quarterback. I think he's retiring. Sad to see your coach go. He's a good guy, too. All that said, her piece in the Washington Examiner is Who Radicalized the Mississippi Synagogue Arsonist. Hasn't gotten the kind of attention it would get if it was some other group whose church was burned down. And it ought to get a lot of attention when churches or synagogues are burned down. Hate found its way to Mississippi's largest Jewish house of worship, she writes, Congregation Beth Israel, when an arsonist intentionally set fire to the synagogue at about 3 a.m. Saturday, damaging the only synagogue in the city. The alleged suspect's name, Stephen Spencer Pittman, was released late Monday. According to the FBI, he faces charges of maliciously damaging or destroying a building by fire or an explosive. Russ Latino, a native Mississippian and founder of the Jackson-based Magnolia Tribune Institute, said an affidavit filed on U.S. District Court for the Southern District of Mississippi alleges that Pittman admitted to law enforcement that he set the fire at Beth Israel because of its Jewish ties. Latino added that Pittman referred to the synagogue as the Synagogue of Satan, the Synagogue of Satan, and detailed the steps he took leading up to the arson. Now, here's the key. Latino noted that Synagogue of Satan is an anti-Semitic phrase that both Nick Fuentes and Candace Owens have used in recent years. Quote, nothing in his personal profile points out anything political. There's no Trump or Biden or Harris. There are just a lot of Bible verses. But Synagogue of Satan, well, that is a pretty specific alliteration, and the same phraseology used by Fuentes and Owens. And the piece is beautiful, important, and I link to it online, and you can read it in its entirety. Now, what about this? Now, look, I don't know if there's a direct line or not. There really doesn't need to be. With the language that's coming out of the mouth of Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens and Steve Bannon, Nick Fuentes, David Smith, who else? I can't even think of it. Megyn Kelly now and others. It is the kind of language that incites certain people to do violent things. And I'm telling you right now, when you keep smearing an entire faith, an entire people, the only Jewish nation on the face of the earth, and you do it day in and day out, and you are relentless about it, for many reasons, whether you're on Qatar's payroll, whether you're a mental case, whether you're just a Jew hater, whatever it is, it has consequences. We've seen this before all over the world. It has consequences. If you're going to talk like you're a PR agent for the Third Reich, or you're going to nod your head and then pretend you're not, In other words, if you're a mini Goebbels, it has consequences. Words have consequences, and they are intended to have consequences. So when Fuentes and Owens keep talking about a synagogue of Satan, and this guy uses that phrase, and he has no political background at all that you can tell, it's poison. Burning down a synagogue in Mississippi. Attacking a synagogue in the center of New York. Celebrating Hamas. Many synagogues have now been attacked in this country, most notably the one in Pittsburgh, where parishioners were murdered, one at a time. And we now have situations where Orthodox rabbis, and the garb that they wear and the beards and so forth, are particular targets, and are others who dress this way. Particular targets. Now, there was a time in our country when we would all rise up and denounce this. It's not happening. Maybe we'll get a press release or a comment here and there. On the woke right, the neo-fascists, we literally have high-ranking politicians who don't say a thing. Or if they say anything, they pretend in some kind of word salad it's not happening. They view these people as part of their base. And there's too many of them who think this way. It's not going to serve their purposes politically, I can tell you that right now. But Selena's right about this. His social media presence on X shows a young man posting about his Christian faith in baseball, where he was a standout player in both high school and college. Latino said the entire Jackson community has rallied around the Beth Israel congregants. Many different faith organizations. This is why I love faith organizations. And the governor, same thing. Public safety commissioner, same thing. She writes, the arson follows years of violent attacks against the nation's Jewish community dating back to October 2018, when Robert Bowers murdered 11 worshipers at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh's Squire Hill neighborhood. The worst massacre of American Jews in our history. Julie Parrish, who lives in Squire Hill, maybe it's Squirrel Hill, and is in the Mid-Atlantic region director of Stand With Us, said she is horrified by the deliberate arson of the synagogue in Jackson to target Mississippi's largest and oldest house of worship, desecrating sacred Torah scrolls and destroying a library and administration offices. It's unmitigated evil. And she mentions the documented scores of graffiti attacks in Pittsburgh's largest Jewish neighborhood. Remember, this is the area she represents. Said while this fire was an attempt to intimidate and harm, it will not succeed. And Selena, who, by the way, is Italian Catholic and a wonderful, wonderful righteous Gentile, she said violence targeting Jews and Jewish institutions surged after October 7, 2023. Now, why is that, America? It's because the Muslim Brotherhood, Hamas, Qatar have poured money into this country, Iran, and Communist China. They've bought people, they've bought podcasters, they've bought politicians, they've bought media outlets, they bought quote-unquote influencers. This attack was led by Hamas terrorists. Since then, a Jordanian national broke into a solar power generation facility in Wedgefield, Florida, because he believed the company supported Israel, causing $500,000 in damage. Last May, 2 Israeli embassy staffers, these young kids, were killed by a lone gunman in Washington. A month later, Boulder, Colorado, Mohammed Sabri Solomon allegedly threw Molotov cocktails at a march supporting Israeli hostages. Prosecutors say he attacked the group with incendiary devices, killing one, injuring others. Yes, he tried to burn them to death. 8,873 anti-Semitic incidents in the United States in 2023, 140% increase. Total combined, in 2024, 9,354. And let's be blunt, part of this is due to the fact that we've imported a huge number of people from the Middle East, from Islamist countries, Islamist-ruled countries, I should say. Let's be honest. They're not even saying, support Palestinians. They're saying support Hamas, which many Palestinians don't even support. Last April, on his first night of Passover, Cody Balmer scaled an iron security fence at the governor's mansion in Pennsylvania. In the middle of the night, he filled used beer bottles with gasoline, and he attempted to kill the governor. Burned down half the mansion there. Told police he intended to beat Shapiro with a small sledgehammer if he encountered him. He also said he needed to know that Balmer will not take part in his plans for what he wants to do with the Palestinian people, whatever that means. Beth Israel's library and surrounding rooms suffered severe damage and so forth. Latinos said the sanctuary was also damaged. 5 Torahs housed there. Pittman 19, who goes by his middle name, lives in Madison, just outside of Jackson, Mississippi. According to an affidavit filed in the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of Mississippi, he faces federal charges for using, obviously, trying to burn it down. Three days ago, around the time of the attack, a post on what investigators believe is Pittman's Instagram account suggested his interest extended beyond baseball. Featured an image of Princess Clara, animated character from Drawn Together known for religious fanaticism and bigotry, pushing Mumbo Alago, a secondary character depicted wearing a Star of David and carrying bags of money, into a pool while shouting, "A Jew in my backyard, I can't believe my Jew crown didn't work. You're getting baptized right now." The question is, who radicalized this man? With seemingly no ideological bent, from posts about baseball and faith to attempting to burn down a house of worship and using phraseology like Synagogue of Satan. What do you think about this, Fuentes and Owens? What do you think about this, Carlson and Bannon, and all the rest of you disgusting reprobates, you vulgarians? I fear there's a lot more to come. A whole lot more to come. I fear that that's coming. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
If your credit card balance is freaking you out after all the holiday spending, I have something that can save you money right now. Cut your cell phone bill in half by switching to Pure Talk Saver Plan. Just $20 a month for unlimited talk, text, and 3 gigs of high-speed data on Pure Talk's super-fast nationwide 5G network. As a veteran-led company that cares about giving back to those who serve, if you're active or former military or a first responder, you'll save an additional 20% every single month. The easiest way to free up cash flow is to reduce your monthly recurring bills. Start with cutting overpriced wireless and switching to my wireless company. Go to puretalk.com/Levin, Levin, and make the switch today in as little as 10 minutes. Again, talk, text, and data just $20 a month. That's puretalk.com/Levin, Levin, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month. Pure Talk is America's wireless company. President of the United States at the Detroit Economic Club today, he's going around the country trying to counter this nonsense the left is saying. Everything's more expensive than ever before. By the way, that is a lie. But tonight's not the night to deal with it. He says this, cut one, go.
And by the way, to all Iranian patriots, keep protesting, take over your institutions if possible, and save the name of the killers and the abusers that are abusing you. You're being very badly abused. If the numbers are right now, I hear 5 different sets of numbers. I hear numbers, look, 1 death is too much. But I hear much lower numbers, and then I hear much higher numbers. But I say save their names because they'll pay a very big price And I've canceled all meetings with the Iranian officials until the senseless killing of protesters stops. And all I say to them is help is on its way. You saw that I put tariffs on anybody doing business with Iran. Just went into effect today. And I say, make Iran great again. You know, it was a great country until these monsters came in and took it over. And it's all very fragile. What would have happened to us? I'm telling you. If I didn't win this election, what would have happened to us?
I agree with him. I agree with him. Cut to go.
And now, after less than 12 months in office, this is the easiest speech to make. I have great people, and all I'm doing is spewing off what the hell we've done. Even Venezuela wasn't too bad, was it, huh? But you have people, Democrats, they say, I don't know if we should have done Venezuela. I don't know. Anybody that says that hates our country, okay? That was as flawless an attack as there has ever been. And they asked us to help them. They have 50 million barrels of oil. They said, take it. It's $5 billion. And we did. We're working with the Venezuelan people and representatives, and it's amazing. But that was an amazing situation. But we did al-Baghdadi, flawless. We did Soleimani, flawless. We did the Iran nuclear attack where we wiped out their nuclear capacity, which would have been very bad. You wouldn't have peace in the Middle East, flawless. We did them all flawless. I want to keep it going that way, too. I like flawless. Think about Jimmy Carter, the great Jimmy Carter, with the helicopters crashing, the hostages all over the place. Remember that one? Think about Sleepy Joe Biden with Afghanistan. What a disaster. The most embarrassing day in the history of our country, in my opinion. Real dope.
That's funny, in a sick way. Funny that he's a real dope. Sick that he did what he did, Biden. The president, I believe, strongly is going to do the right thing. He sees those videos of these young people dead, and it really does affect him. Apparently it doesn't affect a lot of other people, but it affects him in a big way. And he's 100% right. Then next hour, by the way, we're going to get into some of this stuff that's happened in front of the Supreme Court. I've got so much in front of me, I'm just trying to organize it in some rational way. Because that's very important and very interesting, too. Just a lot going on these days. And I want to make sure we cover as much as we possibly can. So people say to me, well, Mark, what would we attack exactly in Iran? Well, there's a lot to attack in Iran. Number one, you can attack their arm depots. Number two, you can attack the units that are used to slaughter the populations. The Mossad and the Israelis will know what units those are, and they will know where they are. And we will be relying heavily on their intelligence because they have managed to, I'm just looking at the public record over the course of time, they've managed to secrete themselves into that government and into the military and into the intelligence agencies over there. Number three, take out the head Islamo-Nazi. I honestly, if you're going to do something, in my view, do it. Number four, you can send in special forces. I'm not sure exactly what they would do. But there are things that you can attack. And I'm sure they're going over all the options right now. I'm sure they're using our alliance with Israel to get as much information as they possibly can. And that's a good thing. I guarantee you they're not using Qatar to get as much information as they can. The world is watching. History's watching. Is the West strong enough to survive, to defend itself? Is our country strong enough to defend itself? Because that's what we're talking about here. This is one of the greatest opportunities in human history to deal with a regime that seeks to destroy humanity with nuclear weapons. The insanity of the fundamentalist Islamist jihadists. This is an opportunity that has been created as a result of the Israeli 12-day war against Iran, as a result of our bombers blowing up their nuclear sites as a result of Donald Trump being president of the United States. This is an opportunity we will never see again. Certainly not in that part of the world. I'll be right back. If your credit card balance is freaking you out after all the holiday spending, I have something that can save you money right now. Cut your cell phone bill in half by switching to Pure Talk Saver Plan. Just $20 a month for unlimited talk, text, and 3 gigs of high-speed data on Pure Talk's super-fast nationwide 5G network. As a veteran-led company that cares about giving back to those who serve, if you're active or former military or a first responder, you'll save an additional 20% every single month. The easiest way to free up cash flow is to reduce your monthly recurring bills. Start with cutting overpriced wireless and switching to my wireless company. Go to puretalk.com/Levin, Levin, and make the switch today in as little as 10 minutes. Again, talk, text, and data just $20 a month. That's puretalk.com/Levin, Levin, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month. Pure Talk is America's wireless company.
Don't ask him for middle ground. There is no middle ground. Talk with Mark Levin now at 877-381-3811.
I'm trying to get this podcast off the ground, but I'm having some difficulty. And I'm getting very annoyed by it. In fact, I'm getting very frustrated about it. And the more I think about it, I'm getting very angry about it. So this is either resolved in the next 24 hours or 36 hours, or I'm going to tell you all about it. Because I'm not going to allow one entity or one person through whatever it is to slow this down and to obstruct what we're trying to do. That's not going to happen. Whether it's intentional or not, it's not going to keep happening. So I'm putting them on notice right now. I've been very patient. I waited. We've known for months. And my patience has run out completely. And I feel it'll be a very big mistake for them if they don't deal with what I'm trying to deal with now. Get it resolved. What are you talking about, Mark? You won't know if they resolve it. You will know if they don't resolve it soon. I'm serious about what I said. I'm very anxious to do something and to get started, and I'm being slowed down. Despite multiple warnings from me. Multiple. And if anybody thinks I'm kidding, they don't know me. I'm not kidding at all. Not in the least. Now, the Democrat Party has brought out its militia, the Marxists, the Islamists, and now illegal aliens, to take on ICE, to destroy our ability to deport illegal aliens. And they're all lining up behind this. Now, wherever you see Bernie Sanders, you should be thinking of Stalin, because Bernie Sanders is a Stalinist. He went to a Stalinist kibbutz. He could have picked a different type of communist kibbutz in Israel, but he picked that one. And even some of the other communists, Bernie's with the Stalinists. You know, that guy, he's a quack. Yeah, he is. And he swore in Mondami. But don't worry, he'll tell you he's Jewish. Jewish? I know a hell of a lot more Christians that are more Jewish than Bernie Sanders. What do you think of that, Mr. Producer? You're for one of them. That's a joke. He's a Marxist. That's his religion, as my wife would say. That's who he is. That's what he is. That's all he cares about. Now let's listen to this. To this Stalinist. Cut 10, go.
Should ICE funding be a red line issue for Democrats?
I am very worried that ICE is becoming a domestic army for Donald Trump.
Now, I want you to listen to this. A domestic army for Donald Trump. What is ICE doing? It's trying to get illegal aliens. How is that a domestic army for Donald Trump? Seriously, ladies and gentlemen, this kind of language should be condemned across the board, but it's not, because the media are all in. Like the stupid question, should ICE funding be a red line issue for Democrats, a funding increase? It's not a question. It's a request. But ICE is becoming a domestic army for Donald Trump. ICE is made up of red-blooded, patriotic Americans, half of whom are Hispanic. But they don't care. They're on the wrong side. Now all of a sudden they're colorblind. And why are half Hispanic? Because they speak Spanish. That's why. It's very simple. And they're patriots. Go ahead.
And this goes way beyond the issue of immigration. It goes to the movement in this country toward authoritarianism and fear.
Now remember, his propaganda led to Congressman Sinise being shot and almost killed. It was a... What's that? What did I say? Scalise. Congressman Scalise being shot and almost killed. You remember the killer, the shooter, would-be killer, was a Bernie Sanders fan. Just like I talked about the burning down of this synagogue, and he uses a line that's used by Fuentes and Owens. These people don't care. The fact that Donald Trump's had 2 assassination attempts and 1 bullet hit him in the head, the ear is part of the head, it doesn't stop Bernie Sanders. He just keeps at it. Now, you know damn well Donald Trump is not creating a domestic army out of ICE. ICE has a job to do. It's in the law to take people who are illegally, whether they've committed additional crimes or not, and remove them. That's been ICE's job since we had what was called an INS, an Immigration and Naturalization Service. Now it's called ICE and the Border Patrol and the rest of it. It's ridiculous to make statements like this. And then listen to AOC. She's got the IQ of a tomato. Sandy. When she went to school in Westchester County, a wealthy county. Sandy. That's right. She was a bartender, and we want to praise her for that. That's why we have the Sandy soundbite. And she got elected, and she became the queen of the media. It was really unbelievable. Yeah. Oh, she's so unbelievable. Can anybody tell me anything she's done? Even in Congress? Anything? Even when the Democrats had control? Can anybody tell me anything she said that's profound or different than sloganeering? Can they? Now she's accusing my friend Jesse Waters of sexism. Oh, shut up, you little... Let me put it that way. Sexism. Sexual harassment. So full of crap. So full of crap. You ever seen Jesse's wife? She's beautiful. Trust me, AOC. You're not Jesse's wife. You may think you are, but you're not. In fact, you're a dimwit. You're a dimwit. And here's what she had to say outside the Capitol building yesterday. Cut 11. Go.
Government funding, we're about to run out of money. What should be the red lines?
Is this the same schmuck that was asking Sanders questions? I guess so. Hat tip Pablo reports on X? What the hell is that? Anyway, go ahead.
When it comes to DHS, should there be policy or reduction in funding? What should be the options?
I mean, in terms of which deadlines line up with which goals, that's a tactical decision.
Doesn't she sound like a genius so far? Go ahead.
Position has always been clear that ICE funding should be cut. We're seeing what they're doing with this reckless explosion in funding. And
what are they doing with this reckless explosion in funding? Trying to get illegal aliens and remove them? You see, AOC is part of the Marxist-Islamist mob. That's right. They have representatives in Congress. She's one of them. She's part of the mob. And the reason AOC will never come on this show is because she doesn't want to confront me or me confront her. But, Mark, you won't debate Dave Smith and Tucker. I don't debate Nazis. I don't debate Klansmen. I don't debate people, in the case of Carlson, who attacked my stepson. Period. I defeat them. I expose them. And he is in the midst of an implosion. He's imploding. Just think about it. 7, 8 months ago, nobody wanted to talk. I can't. Now everybody has growing contempt for this lowlife. And they should. What's the debate? My faith? My family? No, that's not happening. You better hope I'm never on the same stage with him. You get my drift, Mr. Producer? Oh, he's such a great debater. Ooh, I must be scared to death of him. And Dave Smith, the unknown comic. I don't even know who the hell this guy is. They keep saying he's a comedian. I don't know where does he perform? Does he perform at funerals or something? I don't know. Does he perform for the Klan? I think he does. By the way, I put a question out on my social sites, and I asked the question, I'm very serious, what's the difference between David Duke and Carlson? What's the difference? I'm just throwing that out there. AOC, cut 12, Mr. Producer, go.
Do you think the president has committed impeachable offenses?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. We're going to impeach him again and again and over and again. We're going to impeach him. This is a woman who hates the Constitution, hates the founders. They were all males and 2 white. Some of them slaves. But we got the impeachment clause. Thank God we had the founders for that. Right, Sandy? May I call you Sandy? You wanted to be called Sandy. Yeah, I feel like I don't know you, but I feel like I know of you. And no, this isn't sexual harassment. This is the big boys game, you know. That is, if you're going to put yourself out there and you're going to be the dumb left-wing kook that you are, you're going to be criticized. You're no Margaret Thatcher. No, you're not. You're no Julie Levin, my wife. No, you're not. You're you. And that must really suck when you have to hide behind sexual harassment to attack Jesse Waters. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
If your credit card balance is freaking you out after all the holiday spending, I have something that can save you money right now. Cut your cell phone bill in half by switching to Pure Talk Saver Plan. Just $20 a month for unlimited talk, text, and 3 gigs of high-speed data on Pure Talk's super-fast nationwide 5G network. As a veteran-led company that cares about giving back to those who serve, if you're active or former military or a first responder, you'll save an additional 20% every single month. The easiest way to free up cash flow is to reduce your monthly recurring bills. Start with cutting overpriced wireless and switching to my wireless company. Go to puretalk.com/Levin, Levin, and make the switch today in as little as 10 minutes. Again, talk, text, and data just $20 a month. That's puretalk.com/Levin, Levin, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month. Pure Talk is America's wireless company. I want to praise certain broadcasters out there who have the intelligence and guts to stand up for what's right. Dana Loesch has been fantastic, and her husband, Chris. I mean, I've met them a few times, but very, very impressive. David Limbaugh has been very, very impressive. He's not a broadcaster, but he's online a lot. My buddy Ben Shapiro, absolutely outstanding. My buddy Josh Hammer, outstanding as well. These are great guys. Dan Bongino, just a stand-up man. He will be back. We've talked. Love the guy. Ben Ferguson, Brian Mudd, Larry O'Connor, many more. Steve Dace. And I will mention others tomorrow and the night after and the night after. But we do have a growing number of great patriots who get behind microphones or in front of television cameras. They're smart. Many of them are young. I'm so proud of them. And there's going to be more of us. An army of us. You don't get to take our country away. You don't get to destroy the conservative movement. You're going to have to go through me and all of them. These reprobates, these grifters, these bigots and racists, Christian bashers and Jew bashers. Washington Post is reporting that Iran's leadership believes that Trump would face pushback from his own supporters if he ordered strikes on Iran. Well, Iran has terribly misjudged us. We backed the president when he backed Israel against Hamas. We backed the president when he took out Maduro. We backed the president when he bombed those Iranian sites. And we will back the president. In fact, we're encouraging the president to take care of that regime as they slaughter our fellow human beings. And those people will be not only Iranian patriots, but American patriots. I have to be honest, some of the most patriotic Americans I know escaped Iran when that Islamist Nazi revolution took place. They're great citizens. Just saying. As a community, it's true. You have other communities that are still in us blind. That's not one of them. That's for sure. They're contributing to America. So let's make this clear, since I'm heard all over the world, behind this mic and through our radio podcast. As you know, I'm developing a separate one, but nonetheless, if Iran's leadership believes that Make America Great Again or America First will turn on the president, that's a terrible misjudgment as they play Carlson's propaganda, his filth, as they used to when they had electricity that they shut off and forced it into the houses and so forth on their TVs. Isn't that frightening? The people in Iran think that Tucker Carlson is reflective of us. I mean, first of all, the guy's built like a punk. I'm just being... He's got this effeminate way of talking, that they learn in private school. I'm not against private schools, just he learned in his private schools. Of course, I'm not making any implications whatsoever. I'm just saying what I hear. He's got that swath of hair he throws around like he's 14 years old, Little dab will do him for sure. He gave up that bow tie for, jack boots and a brown shirt. He was better in the bow tie. It's a weirdo. And of course, we know he was attacked by demons because he told us his 4 dogs witnessed it. I think we're watching somebody in a steep decline. And the Iranians think he represents us. No, he doesn't. He represents himself.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. Aaron Milan is fantastic. She's been great, really great. There's going to be others. I'm going to mention them as the time goes on. The freedom fighters of the internet, the freedom fighters of broadcasting. That's what I call them. That's who they are. That's who they'll be known for now and forevermore. At a crucial time in history like this, they're taking this technology and they're using it for the right reasons. For the right reasons. Very important. And as I said, there are others, and I will mention them. Some of them in media, some in the broadcasting part of media, some not. They don't get the attention they deserve, certainly not the positive attention they deserve. The grifters, the neo-fascists, they draw a lot of the attention thanks to left-wing sites like Mediaite and the Drudge Report and the rest of them that love these spats and love their headlines, and their whole business model is how many hits can they get. Really pretty loathsome. Plus, for the left in these sites, it's great. They want to stir the pot. They want to undermine conservatives and Republicans and the president. The Iranian regime thinks that these people represent you and me. You know, the president ought to hit them in the nuts so hard it comes out of their nostrils. May I say that, Mr. Producer? I'm not kidding. Now, today there was a hearing at the Supreme Court. Now, I would tell our Supreme Court justices, the president has just used tariffs the other day, 25% against any country that does business with Iran. He didn't do that to raise taxes. He didn't do that for economic or financial reasons. He did it for national security and foreign policy reasons. Solely for those reasons. He's the one that has to make those decisions, not some judge, not some bureaucrat. And if Congress has a problem with it, then Congress needs to pass a law and let them duke it out on separation of powers grounds. But there's no reason for the court to be involved now other than to reverse the lower court and tell the lower court that its ruling was wrong. That if we undo everything that the president has done, or historically presidents have done, what then? Who's going to make these decisions? When? How? How will you bifurcate the power of the purse from the commander-in-chief? This is the back and forth that's typically supposed to take place between the two elected branches, not for 9 lawyers to step in and say, okay, from now on you bring it in front of a federal judge and they'll make a decision. You got 770 of these judges. And everyone's an egomaniac, pretty much. And so what are they going to do? I'm talking about the lower courts. One will say one will say the other. Can you imagine the havoc that would be caused in our economy, in international trade, but even more in foreign policy and national security? There's Trump with a 25% tariff on nations that do business with Iran. Somebody will run to court, seek a temporary injunction, get one of these left-wing lawyers. Yeah, you're right. That's Congress's power. Well, of course it's not. They should leave well enough alone. And you know what else is interesting? Congress isn't even a party to any of these lawsuits. They're individual litigants, pretty much, that represent industries or a particular company. They're the ones bringing the lawsuit saying the president doesn't have this power. Congress hasn't brought any lawsuit. Congress isn't part of this Supreme Court case. Congress hasn't even taken a single step to pass legislation to counter what the president's doing or to limit him. You might say that's because the Republicans. Yeah, well, okay. And if the Democrats win next time, let them give it a shot. But they're going to unleash chaos like you can't believe. And this is pretty much what I said Sunday night during my monologue when everybody was watching football, except you great people were watching my show, which is what I'm very thankful for. Now, there's another debate. 20 years ago, nobody thought this would even be a Supreme Court case, let alone a factor in our society. Now, what am I talking about? I'm talking about men being women and women being men, and whether it's biological or mental or psychological or what the hell's going on. And I thought Alito did the best job, but a lot of them did a very good job. Kavanaugh was very good. Very good. Gorsuch was very good. Ketanji Brown Jackson was her typical, New York Times op-ed editor. Really silly. Let's listen to some of this. Let's start with Ketanji Brown Jackson. This is on transgender ban in sports that you have in really 29 states. 29 states. Cut 17, go.
I guess I'm still struggling to understand why the state would have to have perfectly tailored laws. I would think the state would just have to make exceptions where people can demonstrate that the justification that makes the state's conduct constitutional doesn't apply to them.
Right. So making exceptions is tailoring your law. That's literally what it means to tailor.
No, but from the standpoint of a facial challenge, when we're asking whether this law has to be stricken completely because it isn't, perfectly tailored. What we're doing is a different exercise in the as-applied challenge. We're asking whether, even though this law is overbroad, we're assuming it's overbroad now.
Why is it overbroad? Let's stop a second. You either have male genitalia or you have female genitalia. If you change that genitalia, you still have the capacity of a man versus a woman or a woman versus a man. Or if you don't change the genitalia, that's obvious too. You know what's crazy? The amendment to the Civil Rights Act, we talk about Title IX, was intended to ensure that women's sports were at least funded and supported at the same level as male sports. Female sports, male sports. Now we have this movement, this perverse movement, this ideologically perverse movement that says guys who transition, even though they're still biological guys, it's what they think that matters. For their own psychological benefit, they should be able to play in women's sports, change in women's bathrooms, or go to the women's change in women's, gyms and locker rooms and all the rest of it. So this is destructive of the Civil Rights Act and the 1972 Amendment, Title IX. It's destructive of it. This is why you have people like Rawling and others speaking out. They're typical liberals, but they're saying, hey, no, this is wrong, because it's wrong. And it's not an ideological issue. It's just wrong. And if you have a daughter who's in sports, you know it's wrong. Go ahead.
To whom it should not be applied. What do we do about that? What is the remedy that those people can get? And what I hear you saying is they get no remedy unless they can demonstrate that there are enough.
Well, maybe they get no remedy. Or in some states, they get a remedy. You're going to change an entire athletic league and the way the entire league operates, whether it's at the Olympic level or at some other professional level or the kindergarten level or whatever it is, because of a tiny handful of individuals who insist that they want to play in a sport which is opposite of their biological sex? What right do they have to make demands like that? I'm sorry, I just find the whole thing offensive. Now, if a state wants to say, okay, we're going to have sports for men, women, and transitioning people, fine, go for it. But if a state doesn't, you don't destroy an entire construct, an entire league, for a relative handful of people. You just don't. This isn't the same as race. Well, there's absolutely no reason to exclude people because of race or to include people because of race. This has a real effect. What sex you are and how you're made up biologically matters. So when she says it's overly broad, how can it be overly broad? You either have a biological male or you're a biological female, and that is a determining factor on which sports you can participate in. It always has been. Not because it's sexist, not because it's discriminatory, because you can't really have a sports league any other way. And to have millions of people literally flourish who want to participate in sports. Go ahead.
Sufficiently overbroad that it's no
They use
longer...
these phrases like overbroad. I don't know what's overbroad about it. It's very specific. You either have a penis or a vagina. I'm sorry. And if you don't, if you've changed them both, you're still biologically a guy or a girl with the opposite sexual genitalia. Go ahead.
the state can do.
Right.
And I don't understand why that is. Why wouldn't, when we identify people for whom this law operates unconstitutionally, that's the premise, because now I'm in remedy, right? The premise is that you have a person who's successfully made an as-applied challenge. This, to me, unconstitutional. You say, too bad, unless you can show that it's also unconstitutional with respect to a sizable number.
No, he's saying it's not unconstitutional. We're not in remedy land. Go ahead.
And I don't understand why that's the case.
Because I don't agree with the premise that the law operates unconstitutionally as to an individual person just because it doesn't, the justification for the law doesn't apply to that person. That's what this court held in both Wynne and Michael M. It recognized that the justification that was put forward for the law might not be true for each and every person the law applied to, but this court said that's fine.
And if we read Caban and Lair to say something different, if I disagree with you, then we just...
Well, Wynne is the most recent of the cases, so even if you read the cases that way, and Wynne is explicit about this. Wynne explicitly says, I believe it's, I'm not going to get the page number right, but Wynne explicitly says that we recognize that there are some men who were present at the birth of their child, who have a DNA test to prove that they were the father, that have been with their kids their entire life. In fact, that was probably true of Wynne's father.
There's more. Cut 18, go.
And so to the extent that you have an individual who says what is happening in this law is that it is treating someone who is transgender but who does not have, because of the medical interventions and the things that have been done, who does not have the same threat to physical competition and safety and all of the reasons that the state puts forward, that's actually a different class, says this individual. So you're not treating the class the same, and you're not, how do you respond to that? In other words, the as-applied challenge essentially redefines the class, or one could think of it as that. And so what's wrong with that, number one, and how do you square that with our holdings in Caban, which Lair later described in this way? In other words, Lair suggested that Caban was establishing that as-applied challenges of this nature do exist.
Certainly, take the second question first.
Yes.
Caban says nothing about as-applied. I know that Lair says later this was an as-applied case, but simply reading Caban, it does not say that. It simply applies intermediate.
No, I understand, but those two cases were in juxtaposition with one another, and Lair comes out the way it does, distinguishing Caban on the basis that it's an as-applied challenge, and we in Lair have a facial challenge, and it's basically the same facts. So if you're right, those two cases.
Can I slow this down, because many of you, your eyes are closing, and I get it. This is where justice goes where she has nowhere else to go. A process argument. Because it makes no sense. It is not unconstitutional to distinguish between men and women, where distinguishing between men and women matters. To do it to discriminate for job applications and so forth, no, you can't do that. But to play football or water polo or basketball or weightlifting or whatever, to do otherwise would mean women can never win. Period. So what kind of sports is that? So for Brown, Justice Brown, you burn down the whole system to accommodate a handful. Now that's not the way it's supposed to work, and the Constitution certainly does not compel that. And I bet America, Mr. and Mrs. America, what do you think the framers of the Constitution would think about this entire discussion, Rich? They think it's nuts. And the idea that you have a Supreme Court justice who takes the Constitution of the United States, written by these framers, and suggests that what they wrote clearly was intended to mean that men are women and women are men when men choose to be women and women choose to be men, I think they would think that we're nuts. absolutely nuts. And to have a Supreme Court justice trying to squeeze into the Constitution this kind of nonsense is absurd. Absolutely nuts. Go ahead.
The way they do.
I don't think so, Your Honor. Again, the Lair was actually briefed as a standing argument of maybe you might be able to argue that this law is overbroad, but you individually are not in the overbroad part, and therefore you don't get to challenge it. The court didn't use standing language, like express standing language in the opinion, but that is the logic of the opinion.
All right. More that will be understandable or interpreted for you when we return. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Let's keep going. Taji Brown Jackson, cut 19, go.
You have the overarching classification, everybody has to be, play on the team that is the same as their sex at birth. But then you have a
By the way, wasn't this the justice who refused to define what a woman was, Mr. Producer? Wasn't this the justice that said that's a biological question? So she's confused to begin with. Go ahead.
Definition that is operating within that, meaning a distinction, meaning that for cisgender girls, they can play consistent with their gender identity. For transgender girls, they can't.
So I think that, okay, so as to the part about your ability to pass over from boy to girl,
yes,
you can go from one way but not the other. I want to be clear that BPJ is not challenging that specific classification. I think that's important to start with. But I think, if anything, that's useful evidence as to the lack of a transgender-based discrimination, because if the legislature were just sort of unsettled by the notion of transgender athletes, I think the answer would have been to then bar them from passing over anyone consistent with their gender.
I appreciate that. I guess I was getting at the what I understood the Chief Justice to be trying to discuss, which was this notion that this is really just about the definition of who we accept that you can separate boys and girls, and we are now looking at the definition of a girl, and we're saying only
you can separate boys and girls. You don't need to be a lawyer or a Supreme Court justice to figure that out. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin, an unapologetic patriot and unapologetic constitutionalist. You can reach him at 877-381-3811.
Let's go to Neil Gorsuch at oral arguments today. Quite good. Cut 20, go.
I guess the question really is, okay, Title IX says you can't discriminate on the basis of sex.
Yes, sure.
I understand what that means. I think I do, right? Can't treat men and women differently. Okay, all right, fine. You're saying, but it matters whether they're similarly situated, and your friends in the government like that line too. Well, there's, I got a lot of evidence that girls perform a lot better in high school than boys. Okay, there's a lot of scientific evidence, whatever, or let's just posit that, all right? Well, so I'm going to have a special remedial program for boys, and the women can't come. And because they're not similarly situated. Well, why on earth would Title IX care about that? It says you can't discriminate on the basis of sex in a program or activity of your educational institution.
So I think...
Why put that gloss on it?
And, Your Honor, I want to be clear. I think the task for the court today is somewhat easier in part because of the express regulations that they have actually not challenged and that do expressly contemplate exactly what West Virginia has done. So I think your hypothetical, yes, of course, is there, but I think the reality is that Congress and the agency have together kind of addressed this specific question in a way that makes this court's task much easier. But I think the problem maybe with
another answer, we don't need to rely on this similarly situated argument. Is that what you're trying to tell me, counsel?
I think you could also take that approach, yes, Your Honor. And I think the reality is that that hypothetical addresses a situation that's much closer to the sort of exclusion and the specific context that gave rise to Title IX in the first place. And so I think that the court would be much more legitimately concerned that would detect the very problem that Congress is trying to head off in passing Title IX in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Now, we're going to keep an eye on Gorsuch. He's been a little soft on this, in this gender area, so to speak. So we'll keep an eye on that. I have faith in him, though, that he'll do the right thing. This is so obvious to me. It's not, I mean, all the legalese aside. Here's Sam Alito. No doubt about Sam Alito. Cut 21, go.
Well, to pick up on the issue of discrimination on the basis of transgender status, let me just go to some basics. Do you agree that a school may have separate teams for a category of students classified as boys and a category of students classified as girls?
Yes, Your Honor.
If it does that, then is it not necessary for there to be, for equal protection purposes, if that is challenged under the Equal Protection Clause, an understanding of what it means to be a boy or a girl or a man or a woman?
Yes, Your Honor.
And what is that definition? For equal protection purposes, what does it mean to be a boy or a girl or a man or a woman?
Sorry, I misunderstood your question. I think that the underlying enactment, whatever it was, the policy, the law, we'd have to have an understanding of how the state or the government was just understanding that term to figure out whether or not someone.
We're going to get back to this. Don't get me wrong, but I want to explain something. He's got her cornered. And that's why she said, I'm sorry, misunderstood. No, she didn't. He's saying, okay, can you have women's sports or girls' sports and men's sports and boys' sports? She said, yes. Is it okay to categorize people that way? Yes. Okay, so what's your definition of a man and a woman? Uh-oh. See, Mr. Producer? So it's okay to have that difference. That's not unconstitutional. Go ahead.
Have a definition for the court. And we don't take issue with we're not disputing the definition here. What we're saying is that the way it applies in practice is to exclude birth sex males categorically from women's teams.
Okay, so stop there. We're not disputing a definition. We're just saying it's discriminatory. Okay. I'm just using plain English. How can it be discriminatory if you're not disputing the definition of a man and a woman? If a biological man is in this category and a biological woman or girl is in the other category. That's where he's headed with this, which is, wait a minute. You got men and women. We admit that men are different than women. You tell me that's okay to have these distinct categories. But then you tell me the application is discriminatory. How is that possible? That's where he's headed. Go ahead.
Birth sex males where it doesn't make sense to do so according to the state's own interest.
Well, how can a court determine whether there's discrimination on the basis of sex without knowing what sex means for equal protection purposes?
I think here we just know that we basically know that that they've identified pursuant to their own statute, Lindsay qualifies as a birth sex male. And she's being excluded categorically from the women's teams as the statute. So we're taking the statute's definitions as we find them, and we don't dispute them. We're just trying to figure out, do they create an equal protection problem?
All right, suppose this school that has a boys, let's say, track team and a girls track team. The school has that. And a student who has the genes and the reproductive system of a male and had those at birth and has never taken puberty blockers, never taken female hormones, never had any gender-altering or affirming surgery, says, nevertheless, I am a woman. That's who I am. Can the school say, no, you cannot participate on the girls' team?
So you're just a birth sex male who has all the advantages of birth sex male hormones, and can the school bar him from the women's team? Yes, they can.
And his point is why? So his point is, look, we agree then that you can have a male team and a female team based on hormones, based on all these other things. Correct. So it's not unconstitutional for athletic purposes to have boys teams and girls teams and men teams and women teams. No, it's not. Because think about it. If it were, it'd be absolutely bizarre. That means every existing league would be unconstitutional. And what he's saying and thinking is, okay, great. Now, so how is it discriminatory to say that a biological male cannot play on a biological female's team? And that's where they start mumbling. Because you can take whatever drugs and have whatever surgery there is, but you're still biologically what you are, what you were born. That can never change biologically. And that's his point. So the categories are not unconstitutional. It would be absurd if they are. I mean, the reason you have Title IX in the first place is a recognition that you have men's sports, women's sports, and that women's sports deserve the same kind of support as men's sports. Great. Now you have people coming along and saying, but if you have people transitioning, then you can alter what team they wish to play. And what Alito is saying is, well, if a state says you can't, you can. There's nothing unconstitutional about that. Now, it's interesting because he also said, let's say none of these changes are made chemically or surgically, and a guy says, I'm a girl, and between my ears, I'm a girl, and I want to play in the girls' sports, and the state says, no, you can't. She said they can do that. That is, they can bar it as a matter of law without violating the Constitution. Okay. So if you take these chemicals, these drugs, or if you have surgery, you're saying you can't. Right. Why? Why? Why, Mr. Producer? Because you can. You can. That is, you can be placed, if you want to do sports, your biological male, it's with the males. Your biological female, it's with the females. That's his point. He's taking it to the logical conclusion. Alito's one of a kind. He and Clarence Thomas, I think they're the two superstars. Often Gorsuch. But we'll see about this one. I'm very interested in watching it. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Look, we packed a lot into the program. Every now and then, the brain needs a rest or a stimulant. That does it for me. Among other things, music. What about you, Mr. Producer? You like music? See, when people say, what kind of music do you like? I mean, I know Motown. I don't even know what to call this, but I like it. I love it. It just depends on the song. One of my favorite songs of all time. Do you know what it is, Rich? Certainly Aretha. Joe Cocker. We'll have to play that tomorrow. You have that song, don't you? Not enough time to play it. I don't kill time. What are you, killing time? No, we're enjoying ourselves. You know, we get to do that too. I mean, we're dealing with the Marxist-Islamists, the neo-fascists. We want to urge the administration as strongly as we know how to help those people in Iran, whack those bastards that run that country, in my humble opinion. And MAGA will support you. We have millions and millions of listeners here who are rational, smart, patriotic Americans. We don't expect the neo-fascists to support you. They'll stab you in the back anyway. We salute our armed forces, police officers, firefighters, emergency personnel, our truckers, the men and women in Ukraine, the men and women in Israel, the men and women in Iran, and you, the American people, red-blooded Americans. God bless you. Thank God for you. And I'll see you tomorrow.